NBA history is filled with countless what-ifs. What if Derrick Rose never suffered such a horrible knee injury? What if LeBron had chosen to sign with the Bulls rather than the Heat? What if all-time greats like Steve Nash or Carmelo Anthony just had one other piece on their team that brought them to a championship and changed their legacy forever? What if Giannis or Embiid were drafted by a different team? How would their careers turn out differently? These are all questions that will be answered in this video series as I resimulate the NBA from the 09-10 season up until the current year as we watch together as history writes itself. If you would like to watch me do this live, go to my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/bigbird4. The link is at the top of the description. For this series, I recreated the entire 09-10 roster from stars to bench warmers to free agents. I calibrated for every single factor for each player, including ratings, contracts, their player growth and potential, and even appearance. If you want to get a more in-depth look at the roster I made, here's a video I made on that where I go through each team and show you all the players I included. Before we jump into the resim, I want to give a brief description of the previous season to show where the NBA was at the time. In the 08-09 season, LeBron won his first MVP after leading the Cavs to the first place in the East with 66 wins. Meanwhile, Kobe and Gasol led the Lakers to the top of the Western Conference and eventually won it all in the finals against the Orlando Magic. The offseason was rather uneventful, with no superstars' contracts having run out. Shaq joined LeBron in Cleveland, and the Lakers replaced Ariza with the then questionable Ron Artest. The Magic upgraded their team by signing a slightly aged Vince Carter, and the Celtics brought in an aging Rasheed Wallace, both teams doing their best to try and topple the previous champions. Analysts almost unanimously agreed that we would be seeing the Lakers in the finals again, but the East was still up in the air. Some believed the addition of Shaq would help catapult LeBron's Cavs into the finals, while others believed the Celtics would make it. While many believed the Lakers would win back-to-back finals, the jury was still out, and there was so much that could have gone differently. Now that we've caught up on the history of our own reality, let's jump into an alternate one. On the surface, things look pretty similar in this simulation, but there were some significant differences that changed the narratives for a lot of teams. Let's start with the All-Star game. For the Eastern Conference, the Celtics trio all made it, as well as LeBron, Wade, Howard, Bosh, and D. Rose. But that's all the players that matched up with real life. AI was voted in by fans as a starter, despite this being a drop-off season for him. And his starting role was replaced by none other than Gilbert Arenas, who avoided controversy in this resim and managed to have a terrific season, averaging 23 and 6. The rest of the bench consisted of Danny Granger, Vince Carter, and Iguodala. The most surprising player to not make it was Joe Johnson, who only managed to put up 16, 7, and 5 this season. Moving on to the West, Melo, Duncan, Kobe, Chris Paul, Durant, D. Will, Pau Gasol, and Billups all made it once again. However, Paul and Durant replaced the superstar Suns duo of Nash and Stoudemire for the starting positions, as the Suns performed horribly in this resimulation. Nash only put up 10 and 7, and was traded halfway through the season to the Bulls. Stoudemire was slightly better, going 16 and 8, but that wasn't enough to snag him a spot. Moving on to the bench, the newcomers were Parker, Boozer, Stackjack, and Okafor, the latter two who haven't even made an All-Star game in real life. Okafor averaged 11 and 13 with nearly 2 blocks per game, and helped Paul bring the Hornets to the 5th seed. Stackjack averaged 14, 8, and 7, while shooting a lights-out 44% from 3, and led the Warriors alongside the rookie Steph Curry to the 4th seed in the West. In the All-Star game, LeBron led the East to a crushing 133-109 victory, and won the All-Star MVP. He also led the Cavs to the top seed in the East while averaging 36, 9, and 8, with 2 steals per game and 1.5 blocks while shooting a career-high 47% from the three-point line and an unheard 60% from the field. Naturally, he won MVP and Defensive Player of the Year, and deservedly so. Manu Ginobili won 6th Man of the Year after averaging 16, 5, and 5, and KD took home the MIP award after increasing in every single statistical category except for his free throw percentage. For some reason, Troy Murphy won Rookie of the Year, despite it being his 9th year in the league. Yeah, I don't really understand that one, 2K. The All-NBA teams had everyone you'd expect, with a few exceptions. Chris Bosh balled out, and ended up on the first team alongside Kobe, Durant, and his potential future teammates LeBron and Wade. Chris Paul ended up staying healthy in this resim, and rightfully made the second team, joining a surprising up-and-comer Russell Westbrook in the front court. But the most surprising inclusion of all was a rookie Stephen Curry, who emerged as a superstar a few seasons early. He made the All-NBA third team after averaging a mind-boggling 27-9, and with that, he wins the honorary Rookie of the Year. This leads us to the NBA playoffs. We've already discussed the surprises in the West, so let's take a look at the crazy Eastern Conference, where the New York Knicks played some crazy team basketball and snagged the second seed over the Celtics, Magic, and Sixers, who ended up being third behind Iggy, a rookie Drew Holiday, and a veteran Elton Brand. The Sixers matched up against the Charlotte Bobcats, who had a respectable season, and ended up with the 6th seed. In Game 1, the Sixers had a resounding 121-110 win behind rookie Drew Holiday's 23 points. The Bobcats answered back in the second game, with Raja Bell scoring 22 points off the bench. Philadelphia won Game 3 with no trouble, but Game 4 was a different story. The score was tied at 101 with 2 minutes left, and it was anybody's game. Drew Holiday hits a quick pull-up from close range to bring the Sixers up by 2, and Iggy slams in a coast-to-coast dunk to increase their lead to 4 with less than a minute and a half to go. Things aren't looking good for the Bobcats when Raja Bell misses an easy 2, but Tyson Chandler hustles for the commanding putback dunk. Willie Green scores an easy lay-in, and Raja turns the ball over with just 30 seconds left on the clock. The Bobcats try trapping Holiday at half court, hoping the young star will choke and turn it over. But he passes it out, and just like that, the Sixers take a 3-1 lead. Unfortunately for the Bobcats, they lost their confidence in the last game, and the Sixers won the series in 5. The Knicks matched up against a seasoned 7th seed Miami Heat, led by superstar Dwayne Wade. Game 1 was a close matchup as both teams had a lot to prove. The Knicks wanted to prove that they weren't just a great season team. They wanted to show what they could do in the playoffs. And the Heat wanted to show that they could still contend without Shaq, and that all Wade needed were the young pieces around him and a different big man with the last name O'Neal. With just a minute left to go, Nate Robinson jukes out Chris Quinn, shoots toward the rim and slams it down. Jermaine O'Neal has a quick putback, and Wade hits a leaning 2 in what he thought was 2 for 1 play, bringing the Heat up by 4. However, Purs Billa, who was traded to the Knicks before the deadline, answered back with an easy 2 by the rim with 25 seconds left on the clock. The Knicks go for a quick foul on Wade, and he drains both free throws to make it a 4-point game yet again. The Knicks call a 20-second timeout, but it's clear what they need to do. Hit a quick 3, foul, and then hit another one to either tie it or win. Instead, this is the play that the Knicks decide to go with. Wade hits 2 more free throws, and the Heat win Game 1. Game 2 was another nail-biter, with the Heat only up by 4, and Wade having fouled out with 2 minutes left to go. But behind a powerful slam by Michael Beasley and an easy swap by Jermaine on the other end, the Heat have a 4-point lead with less than a minute left. If Beasley hadn't already disrespected the Knicks enough on that first play, he then hits Harrington with his sick post-up and proceeds to dance around him till he gets back up. Truly, you cannot make this stuff up. Despite the nasty moves, he bricks the fadeaway, which O'Neal happily puts back in. It was over at this point, and it seemed like the Heat were going to pull away with the series, because Game 3 was back in South Beach. But it turns out the Knicks weren't complete frauds, and they pulled away with a wide victory. But the Heat answered back in Game 4, and won 110-88. Game 5 was a bit of a contest, but the Heat's surprising breakout player Chris Quinn, who averaged 20 points a night over the whole playoffs, only scored 4 points this game, and David Lee led the Knicks to victory, scoring 32. Game 6 was a must-win for the Knicks, and it was a lot closer than the previous matchup. In the end, it came down to this play right here. The Heat had a glimmer of hope as Lee missed this fadeaway, but Purs Billa comes in the clutch again, grabbing the offensive rebound and dropping both free throws, tying the series 3-3. This was it. Wade's legacy was at stake. Was he able to lead a team on his own, or is he just another star player who requires another great superstar to succeed? Game 7 wasn't even a contest. Wade lived up to all the hype and went 51, 6, and 10 and blew out the Knicks by 38 points. The Heat would live to see another round, their next opponent the 3rd seed 76ers. The next matchup is 2 title contenders, the Boston Celtics and the Orlando Magic. Boston have a home court advantage with the 4th seed and blow the Magic out by 15 in Game 1. Game 2 looks a lot closer, with the Celtics only up by 4 with 2 minutes to go. However, with Rasheed Wallace knocking down 2 free throws and 2 blocks in a row by Paul Pierce and Ray Allen, it was a wrap, and the Celtics take a 2-0 lead. Game 3 was a different story, as All-Star Vince Carter was back from injury, and he led them alongside MVP runner-up Dwight Howard to 3 straight wins on the Magic home court, with Carter going 37-7 in Game 4. Going into Game 6, the Magic had all the momentum, but the Celtics weren't going down without a fight. With a minute and a half left, down by 1, Pierce lobs the ball out to Ray Allen for a wide-open 3, and he drills it. With just a minute left, Coach Stan Van Gundy makes a very questionable call and subs out Dwight Howard for sharpshooter Rashard Lewis. Turns out it didn't go so well for the Magic, as Pierce drains the 3 and Allen scores 2 more. Vince Carter hits a contested 3 to pull the Magic within 7, but it was a little too late, as the Celtics tie the series up in Game 6. Game 7 was a disaster for both teams, and none of their stars could buy a bucket. The Celtics end up winning by 10 behind Big Baby Davis, who scored 20 points in just 20 minutes off the bench. The last matchup of the East was LeBron's first-seed Cavaliers and the 8th-seed Atlanta Hawks, led by Joe Johnson, Josh Smith, and Al Horford. In Game 1, Joe Johnson led the Hawks with 26 points to a narrow 3-point victory. Game 2 was a must-win for LeBron, but the Cavs were a bit shaky and weren't able to dominate like they'd hoped they could. With 2.5 minutes left to go, the Cavs were only up by 1, and the Hawks had possession. They inbound it to Josh Smith for the open 2, but he misses it, grabs it, and misses it again. The Cavs grab the rebound, and Mo Will hits an open layup on the other end. The Hawks decide to go to Smith yet again in the deep post, and he again misses the wide open shot. LeBron takes it back up the court, and Smith redeems himself by snatching it away from the 2-time MVP, but quickly turns it over by tripping up on his own shoelaces. The Hawks, however, are still in this one, as they're only down by 3 with over a minute to go. So for the next possession, they yet again decide to go to the one and only Josh Smith. But this time he actually hits a shot. LeBron takes the ball up the court and gets it stripped away yet again, this time by Marvin Williams. He hits both free throws and puts the Hawks up by 1. In this moment, LeBron knows it's all or nothing. He has to win this game, or else he will forever be known as a choker, as a great NBA talent who could never succeed in the playoffs. The narratives have been flying for years, and he is ready to live up to the moment. On a quick screen by Ilgauskas, he drives to the right and pulls up for a mid-range shot, and on the other end, the Hawks yet again decide to go to the worst shooter on their team, and he bricks an ill-advised fadeaway. There's only 30 seconds left on the clock, and the Cavs need a bucket to seal this game. LeBron tries to post up Williams, but he gets double-teamed and passes out to the open man. Mo Will takes it in for the floater, and gets his shot smacked out by none other than Josh Smith. So this is it. 1-point game, 20 seconds. Hawks ball. Will they go for an ISO with one of the most clutch players in NBA history, Joe Johnson? Nope. They yet again pass it to Josh Smith, who tries a windmill layup in the post and absolutely bricks it. Mo Will misses a free throw, and Baby dribbles up in transition, hoping to pull off a game-winning 3, but it wasn't meant to be. The series is tied up, and the media couldn't have had harsher words for Josh Smith's abysmal display.
How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and today we're going to talk about Josh Smith. How did he end up going from a super athletic rising star to, well, never making the jump and becoming one of the worst chuckers in NBA history?
His shot came off slow, flat-footed, and extremely inconsistent.
Josh Smith was a bad player. One of the most absurd chuckers of all time, a black hole who killed the offense.
Is Josh Smith the worst player in the NBA?
His shooting also took the air out of the team every time he took a bad shot, leading to an air ball or one of these.
Smith was terrible, still jacking up jumpers like crazy and bricking like all of them.
Josh Smith, check him out. Obviously misses. Do you have a problem with this at this point in the game?
I have a huge problem with what I thought was a grandstanding stunt and basically spoke to what's wrong with the Atlanta Hawks, who I consider a very talented basketball team without a difference-making star or a sort of a senior leader of that team. Because if they had a real leader on that team in the locker room, Josh Smith is in the 5th year now. He would have been taught a long time ago that stuff doesn't fly in this.
The Cavs win Game 3 in Atlanta, and the Hawks respond by winning Game 4 behind Mike Bibby, who turned the clock this game and scored 23 points. Game 5 is another nail-biter, as the Hawks are up by 1 with just a minute and a half to go. LeBron drives in for a dunk, but gets demolished before he even gets the ball close to the rim by none other than Josh Smith. Bibby passes out to Joe Johnson in transition, who hits a turnaround fadeaway from just inside the three-point line, and brings the Hawks' lead up to 3. LeBron brings the ball up, but quickly shies away in the corner and lets Mo Williams take the lead, as he misses an open 3. After some great defense to stop the Hawks from scoring 2 shots right next to the rim, LeBron runs out in transition and hits a layup off the pass from Delonte West. Bibby dribbles up, and it seems the Hawks are determined to live or die by the one and only Josh Smith, who seems to have grown since game 2 and hits the easy layup. The Cavs call a timeout and discuss their game plan. They decide to go with a quick mid-range shot from Mo Will, in the hopes that they can get the Hawks to miss a free throw on the other end. Despite some good defense, Mo Will hits it, and is yet again a 1-point game. Joe Johnson hits his free throws, and LeBron takes it up the floor. Yet again, his legacy is on the line. And yet again, he decides to pass it off to a different player, this time JJ Hickson, who misses the inside shot. The Cavs get lucky, and the ball gets deflected out by the Hawks, giving the Cavs 11 seconds to hit a 3 to send this game into overtime. They pass it into Mo Will for the wide open 3, who chickens out and lobs it cross court to Danny Green, who throws up 2 pump fakes and then bricks the tightly contested 3, costing the Cavs a much needed win. Game 6 was another close game. The Cavs only had by 4 with less than a minute to go. Williams inbounds it to Jamal Crawford, who takes it to the rim for an and 1 to make it just a 1-possession game. LeBron had fouled out of the game a few minutes earlier, so it is up to the rest of the Cavaliers team to win it for them. And considering how the last game went, and with their team being on the road in Atlanta, things are not looking great. However, Mo Will is able to find a cutting Delonte West in transition, who makes an and 1 and his free throw, and puts the Cavs up by 5 with a little over 30 seconds left. The Cavs think this game is over, but Joe Johnson lays in a clutch contested layup, and it's still anybody's game. The Cavaliers feed him to Ilgauskas, who fumbles with the ball, but is still able to put it in. But his fumble wasn't as big as the referees, who didn't seem to notice that Big Z was standing in the lane for over 5 seconds. Angered by the horrible call, Joe Johnson drives off the inbound and stuffs it over West. Mo Will hits his free throws, and Joe Johnson misses the mid-range jumper, as Game 6 goes to the Cavs. But did they really deserve that victory? Would they really have been able to win if the refs had been paying attention? LeBron basically put up a 40-point triple-double to win Game 7, but Hawks fans still felt cheated, and rightfully so. The Cavs will be facing the Celtics in the second round, but nobody feels like they deserve to. Overturned calls didn't exist in 2010, and this is yet another example of why we have them now. Moving on to the Western Conference, the first matchup was the 3rd-seeded Thunder versus the 6th-seed Jazz. The Thunder's young and scrappy squad of rookie James Harden, sophomore Westbrook and Ibaka, and third-year superstar Kevin Durant proved themselves in the regular season. This was only their second year in Oklahoma City, yet they doubled their games won, and were emerging as the next potential super team. But despite the Jazz dropping to the 6th seed, they should not be underestimated. They had 2 All-Stars on their team with Deron Williams and Boozer, and had far more depth throughout their rotation than the Thunder. They also had 3 powerhouses in the paint, Okur, Boozer, and Millsap. In the first 2 games, the Thunder narrowly scraped by with close wins. Westbrook was showing up to play, but Durant underperformed in both games, dipping well below his season averages. He was having a rough time against Andrei Kirilenko, who had made the defensive first team. Things would fall apart for the Thunder in the next game, as they lost by a decent margin in Game 3, and they were struggling to guard the 3 big men in the post. This would become all more apparent in Game 4, when the Thunder suffered the worst loss in NBA playoff history, the final score being 136-73. The record had been broken in the previous season by the New Orleans Hornets, who lost to the Nuggets by 58 points, but that loss was overshadowed by the 63-point loss. The Jazz bullied the Thunder in the paint, with all 3 of their big men having triple-doubles. Kirilenko also clamped on Durant, who only managed to score a pathetic 16 points. The Thunder tried to readjust their game plan for the next few games, but to no avail. Utah cruised through the next 2 games and secured their spot in the second round. The 2nd-seed Nuggets and the 7th-seed Spurs were evenly matched. Carmelo had suffered a knee injury during the season, and wouldn't be able to make an appearance at all in the first round. The Spurs plan to capitalize on them missing their best player, but the Nuggets had other plans. With a little more than a minute left in Game 1, rookie Ty Lawson shoots up the court and slams in a dunk to bring the Nuggets within 4. Despite having 2 other great guards on his team in All-Star Billups and J.R. Smith, Lawson had proven himself, and oftentimes closed out games when J.R. Smith was on a cold streak. After that slam by Duncan, Lawson shows his tenacity by driving towards the rim and getting a foul call. But after Duncan gets an easy putback and swats away an alley-oop on the other end, the game is pretty much over, and the Spurs take Game 1. The Nuggets are able to steal Game 2 behind another great performance by Ty Lawson, who had 20 points coming off the bench. The Spurs come out and win Game 3, but things were about to take a change as J.R. Smith began to play the best basketball of his career. Smith scores 24 in Game 4 to lead the Nuggets to tie the series up, and then hits 30 in Game 5 to win them another one. Game 6 was no different, as he drops 40 in the third blowout in a row, leading the Nuggets to the next round. The Warriors and Hornets were the next matchup at 4 and 5, and even though the Warriors had claimed a higher seed, no one believed that rookie Steph Curry would be able to keep up his numbers against the all-defensive second-member team, Chris Paul. Curry, however, would prove everybody wrong, as he would come out in Game 1 with 30 points and 11 assists. Unfortunately for him, CP3 went 31 and 19, and blew out the Warriors by 20. Curry may have lost the game, but he had earned everyone's respect with his fantastic performance. Game 2, Curry had another good game, but he was overshadowed by CP3, who seemed to be doing everything for his team, ending the game going 41, 7, and 11, and leading the Hornets to yet another 20-point victory. Game 3 was a different story, as Curry and Jackson had banded together to win their first playoff game. Stack Jack was playing horribly beforehand, only averaging 10 points a game on horrible efficiency. The Warriors seemed to stand a chance in Game 4, but after Paul hit this dagger from just inside the three-point line, the game was over. The Warriors' playoff run seemed to be over, as everyone expected the series to be done in 5 games. With just a little over a minute left in Game 5, Morris Peterson sinks in this contested 2, bringing the Hornets' lead up to 6, and it wasn't looking great for the Warriors. Stack Jack responds by knocking down a mid-range jumper. Pearson dishes it off to the cutting Posey on the other end, and he ends up going to the line, sinking both his free throws. It is now still a 6-point game, and the Warriors only have 45 seconds to try and tie it up. Ellis is able to find Jackson by the rim, who gets fouled as he's taking it up, and he capitalizes on the N1. The Hornets bring the ball back up, and feed Posey in the paint, who creates some room against Nocioni, but gets flustered and misses the inside shot. Jackson goes on a break the other way, and finds Ellis in the corner, who ties the game up with only 20 seconds left on the clock. The Hornets call a timeout and discuss their game plan, but the Warriors already know that Chris Paul is going to finish this game out. Curry and Biedrins put the clamp on Paul, leaving Okafor wide open by the rim. Posey passes it off to him, but Biedrins makes a miraculous recovery and is able to reach Okafor, contesting the shot and causing him to miss. He grabs the rebound and chucks it, and very nearly wins it. Overtime is a high-scoring session, as both teams go back and forth exchanging buckets. The Hornets playing team basketball, the Warriors feeding the hot-handed Steph Curry. After a slam by Biedrins off the assist from Steph, the Warriors have the momentum. The Hornets pass the ball around, but can't seem to find the open man, until there's just 3 seconds left on the shot clock as Okafor finds an opening and slams it in. With just 25 seconds left on the clock, the Hornets have no choice but to foul Monta Ellis. He knocks down his free throws, giving the Hornets a chance to respond. But as Paul's long-range 2 finds the back of the rim, the Hornets lose their chance of winning this series in 5. Despite their terrific play in overtime, the Warriors lose momentum in Game 6 as CP3 gets a 30-point triple-double, and the Hornets take the series. The last matchup of the first round is the 8th seed Mavericks and the 1st seed Lakers. The Mavs had faced a lot of injuries throughout the regular season, with their teams mostly consisting of older vets. However, they were all healthy and ready to play in the playoffs, and the Lakers weren't going to have an easy time against them. This would be made evident in Game 1 where the Mavericks held their own, and were up by 4 with little under a minute to go. Odom finds Bynum in the center for the poster, bringing the lead down to a 1-possession game. Nowitzki breaks a jumper on the other end, and Kobe capitalizes on the miss by going on a one-man fast break. Little did he know that Nowitzki was right on his back, and he swats Kobe's layup from behind. Jason Terry scores the layup in transition, but Kobe isn't ready to give up. He takes the ball back up the court and gets down in the paint. Despite having open teammates, he holds onto the rock and ends up getting in a jump ball against 7-foot-tall Eric Dampier. Despite their height differential, Kobe still wins the jump, but quickly turns it over. On the other end, Jason Kidd finds Nowitzki, who scores his classic fadeaway jumper. Kobe tries to respond by pulling up from the free throw line, but he isn't able to score it. And Terry again scores a layup in transition, making it an 8-point game with less than a minute to go. Kobe decides to give it up to Jordan Farmar, who misses the open three. Jason Kidd responds the next play with an open shot from the corner, and with that, the game is over, as the 8th seed Mavericks take Game 1 in Los Angeles. While Kobe may have choked in the end of Game 1, he showed up in Game 2 and led the Lakers to a 112-100 victory. After that, the Mavericks never really stood a chance, as Kobe goes off in the next 3 games, blowing the Mavericks out in each matchup. In Game 5, Kobe racked up 46 points and 15 assists, the Lakers scoring 141 points and blowing out the worn-out Mavericks. LA would be going on to the second round to face Chris Paul's Hornets. Round 2 is filled with just as many twists and turns as the first, but you'll have to wait till the next video to see how things turn out. Will LeBron choke again and lose to the aging Celtics? Will Wade's Miami Heat be able to conquer the Sixers and bring his 7-seed team to the conference finals? Will the Nuggets stand a chance against the Jazz, with Carmelo having been ruled out to play for yet another round? Will the Lakers be able to accomplish what they did in real life, and beat the Hornets and eventually win it all? Tune in to my next video to find out. Or, if you really can't wait, you can check out my Twitch channel, where I have all my previous broadcasts uploaded. Also, go ahead and follow me over there to tune in as I resimulate the 2010-2011 season, and eventually simulate up to the present day. It'll be fascinating to see where teams end up, what players will cement their legacies, and which ones will fall like they never did in reality. Thank you so much for watching this video. I know the video quality is pretty poor, and seeing my face in the bottom right corner the whole time is probably kind of annoying. I hadn't done as much playing as I should have when I streamed, and that's something I'll change when I come out with the next installment of the series. Go ahead and drop a like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Right now, I'm still trying to find my place on this platform, and releasing lots of different kinds of content. If you enjoy my NBA videos but not my political ones, or vice versa, go ahead and just still subscribe. You don't have to watch everything I make, and I promise I won't be bombarding your subscription feed with constant uploads. I'm still really new at this, and it takes me a really long time to write out, record, and edit all these videos. To give you a rough idea what my process looks like, I streamed the first round of the playoffs on January 31st, and started editing this video on the 15th of February. So this one video is most likely going to have to take in a full month all in all before it's finished. Before I end this video, I want to give a quick shout out to Andy Hoops and Son of Growth for their contribution to the J.R. Smith segment. I didn't ask for their permission to be in it, but I hope they enjoyed their role in it as much as I enjoy both of their content. I'll leave their channels in the description below if you want to check them out. And if you like 2000 and 2010 NBA trivia as much as I do, you'll probably enjoy both their channels. Well, that's all I have for this video, so go ahead and smash that like button, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.